r/NoSleep. Posted by u/FishermanTales. There is an ancient tower in the middle of the North Atlantic. To descend a ladder into utter darkness, one must move in a tedious and measured manner. A single wrong step might have caused me to plunge deep into further blackness. I did not know what awaited me at the bottom. There was no way for me to find out exactly how much time had passed, but I could feel that it had been hours. My slow descent was reduced even further by soreness and fatigue. My body ached all over. There was an odor, that copper-like smell of blood mixed with a rotting putridity. It had been present throughout my climb down the ladder. It gnawed at my head and made focusing difficult. Blood rained past me from above. How did they bleed so much? I heard the dripping of liquid joining more liquid. My body was nearly ready to give out when I felt my legs submerge into something warm and wet. Water would have been a welcome change, but I knew better: more blood. I hesitated a moment. I still lacked all visibility. I would be treading blindly through blood. I peered up the ladder, but the manhole cover had been resealed hours ago. I took a deep breath and stepped off the ladder. My feet were unable to reach the bottom of the blood-filled pool. I kicked and paddled with great effort to keep my head above the gore. Blood really is thicker than water. I knew that my best bet was to stay against the wall and follow it, and hope that it would lead me to a door or some other way out. I pressed my hand against the slimy stone and swam. I hadn't gotten far when I saw a lantern suddenly flicker to life at the opposite end of the chamber. In its faint glow I could see a wooden rowboat. The blood rippled as oars were pushed and pulled, propelling the boat towards me. "Hello?" I called out. The boat continued in my direction. I was hesitant to find out who was steering, but what choice did I have? The boat reached me and I could see a shadowy figure on board. He wore a dark, ragged cloak with a hood over his head. His face was concealed by shadows. He leaned towards me and extended his arm. "Take my hand," he said. His voice was aged, but still had some strength to it. I was slick with blood. I would not be easy to grip. I reluctantly did as he said, and to my surprise, he firmly grabbed a hold of my hand and hauled me out of the blood and into the boat. I was a crimson sheen under the glimmer of the lantern. The man grabbed the lantern and sat in front of me. He set the lantern down between us and lowered his hood. He had long, unwashed white hair and a long beard, similar to the man who had opened the door for me earlier. He was elderly, but not as gaunt as the other man. I could see that he was missing his right eye. "Thank you," I said. The old man nodded. "What is this tower?" I asked. "A prison, mostly. This chamber is my cell." "How long have you been down here?" "I do not know." "Why are you here?" "I was captured." The old man smirked and grabbed a hold of the oars, and began to slowly row us back to the side he came from. "Have you tried to escape?" The old man exhaled. "There is no use. We have been deprived of that which gives us our strength." "We?" "My people, my family. They are imprisoned here as well." I thought back to the 4 tortured souls above, their intestines pulled from their bodies and blood pouring from their amputated legs. "Are you aware of the cruelty that is taking place above?" The old man nodded. "This pool of blood is theirs." "How many people have bled to fill a pool this deep?" The old man stopped rowing. We had reached the other side. "The 4 men you saw hanging, have always been. Ever since we've been here. They are mutilated, hung from chains, and when their bodies run dry, they are brought down and healed. Then the cycle repeats." "Healed by who? The 3 women?" The old man nodded. "Urd, Verdandi, and Skuld. They shape destiny. That of the 4 men above has become a circle of blood and agony." Those names sound Nordic. I suddenly remembered the symbols I'd seen on the surface of the tower. They had looked like Viking runes. The old man produced a weary smile. "Yes." He took hold of the lantern and rose to his feet. He stepped off the boat onto a stone platform, and held out his hand for me to follow. Adjacent to the platform was another large, wooden door. This one was solid, no keyhole. "I am not able to open this door." "But you are," said the old man. "Why me?" "He calls for you." "What does he want?" "I do not know." "Who is he?" "The prophets spoke of him as if he were the coming days of oblivion. We were ignorant of the truth, that he lives and breathes." "I don't understand." "You will." The old man motioned at the door. "Place your hands upon the door and it will open." I did as he told me. There were a sequence of clicks and thumps as the door unlocked, and then slowly but surely, it drifted open. A breath of wind swept against me, and the whispering voice of the one who awaits, again said, "Come to me." I turned to the old man. The door is open. You can join me." The old man shook his head. "I am sorry. It is too great a risk. But perhaps you can help us." "How?" "Find Ethune. She holds the key." "The key to what?" "To ending this." I looked back at the open door and the descending stone stairs beyond. The old man placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "My sons are down there. I have not seen them in a very long time. What are their names?" The old man had removed his hand from my shoulder and was returning to the rowboat. "I recognize you," he said. "We've never met before." The old man took a seat in the boat and raised his hood back over his head. Another round of blood began to flow down the ladder and into the pool. The dripping echoed off the chamber walls. The old man glanced towards the sound. He looked back at me and smiled. "Not as you are. But as you once were." The old man extinguished the lantern's flame, casting him behind a curtain of darkness. "What does that mean?" I asked. I could hear the movement of the oars and the stirring of the blood. I asked once more, but the old man did not respond. I stood at the doorway and peered down the long, winding stairwell. I could hear what sounded like the distant clang of a hammer striking metal. And towards it, I went. Metal on metal. Clink. Clink. Clang. There was a sizzle as the heated piece was submerged into water. My movements were slow and careful. I was oiled head to toe in blood. It dripped from me onto the stone steps. Clink. 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 The hammering continued. The sound grew louder as I descended further. The air was becoming steadily warmer. I reached another door. Not wooden like the others, but more like an iron prison gate. Still no knobs or handles. No keyhole. Beyond the gate, I observed a hazy stone chamber lit by a faint reddish glow. A large figure hammered rhythmically onto a piece they held steady on the surface of an anvil. Sparks danced around them with each strike, as embers escaped from burning coals. I placed my hands on the gate and it slowly creaked open. Another sizzle. I inched closer as the figure drowned the object in a stone tub. The gate drifted shut behind me. Closer and I could see in the glow, a broad-shouldered man dressed in rags, dirty with soot and sweat. Hair long like all the others, but thinning on top. Blondish in color. He brought the object up for air. It dripped red. A blacksmith that cooled his creations in blood. He tossed it onto a pile of similar pieces. I looked around and did not see an obvious way out of the room and down to the next level. I opened my mouth to speak, but hesitated. I did not know if this was friend or foe. "I need to get to the next level," I said. I ditched "Hello, excuse me, ahem." This didn't feel like the type of place for any of those. The hammering abruptly halted as the man quickly pivoted to face me. He had a long beard like the rest, something I came to assume was a reflection of how much time they'd been imprisoned. He was wild-eyed, and looked as if he were both startled and angered by my intrusion. "Who are you?" he grunted. His hammer trembled beneath a white knuckle grip. I held my hands in front of me to show that I did not mean him harm. "I just need to get down to the next level." He raised the hammer and stomped towards me. "I asked you a question." I flinched and stumbled backwards. "Nate. My name is Nate." "Why do you need to get down to the next level?" he asked, his hammer still firmly gripped. I need to get out of here." His eyes became less wide and his brow narrowed. "And you think the way out is down?" He lowered the hammer and coughed out a laugh. He turned back towards his forge. "There is no way out. He calls for me." The man stopped moving. He spun around to face me again. "And you've chosen to answer his summons? I'll be trapped in here otherwise. Do you not fear that a worse fate may await you?" I had considered it. I knew that the one responsible for this nightmare could be nothing less than pure evil. But I needed to know why he called for me. I needed to know who he was. And most importantly, I needed to try and get back to Hannah, even if that meant traveling to the depths of hell to get my ticket back to the surface. I nodded. "It is a chance I'm willing to take." The man sighed a low grumble. "Then I wish you luck, Nate." He returned to his forge and continued his work. I still had unanswered questions. Who was this man? What was he forging? Why was he doing it? And how was I to get to the next level? I moved behind him and peered over his shoulder as he brought the hammer down on the object. He was making the blade of a sword. "Why do you make those?" I asked. "I dream of battle," he answered as he struck the blade again. "Will you use these blades?" "It is a cruel punishment for a warrior to be given the means to prepare for a war he cannot fight." "Then why do it?" The man stopped hammering. "Do you not hear it?" We stayed still without moving or speaking. I heard the crackle of the heated coals, the beating of my own heart, the breathing of the powerful figure in front of me. But there were other sounds, distant, but present nonetheless. Ones that made my blood run cold. Frantic voices of men fighting a losing battle, as others cried out in excruciating agony. The ripping of flesh and the snapping of bones. The metallic clang of fallen blades. And the ravenous snarl of something inhuman. That beast cannot be bested. Not by man. That is their punishment, to fight a losing battle for eternity. I now understood. He worked the forge to drown out the horrible sound of endless defeat. But the pile of blades was smaller than one would expect. Do they use weapons down there? The prisoner struck the blade with more force. Yes. He struck it once again. Just as hard. The weapons that you make? Sparks flew as the prisoner brought the hammer down on the blade with all of his strength and frustration, causing the head to break free from its wooden handle. His gaze fell to the floor and his wide shoulders slumped. Those which I forge are gathered by his demons, and given to my people to hopelessly wield. Why do they continue to fight if there is no hope of winning? It is all they have. I wondered why someone so drained of hope wouldn't just use the blades he made to kill himself. Can nobody die in this tower? We cannot be killed by any man, nor can we succumb to age or illness. But of those who we were once equal to, we are vulnerable. We had always been able to kill each other, some more easily than others. Those days have ended, though, as we are no longer equals. That which made us so has been taken from us. They can kill us, but we cannot do the same to them, and they choose to resurrect those they kill, for the sake of eternal torment? The prisoner nodded. I want to help end this, I said. The prisoner laughed. You're just a man. But I am able to descend the tower freely. And what is your point? I will look for Idun. The prisoner's expression grew sober. His eyes narrowed. What do you know of Idun? The man above us said that she holds the key. The prisoner glanced briefly at the stone ceiling. What did this man look like? He was old and gray, and missing his right eye. The prisoner's jaw tensed. My father. He exhaled and relaxed a bit. How is he? He helped me out of a pool of blood into his rowboat. He spoke of you and your brothers. Said he has not seen you in a long time. The prisoner nodded, and changed topic. Idun's apples are what give us our strength and vitality. Without it, we become weak. I looked at the large, muscular figure in front of me. You do not look weak. I am only as strong as a man now. Other prisoners do not look as healthy as you. I eat what I am given and I work the forge. That is the only reason I do not look as they do. What food are you given? The prisoner was silent. His eyes flicked momentarily towards the floor, but his gaze was distant. I understood. How do I get to the next level? I asked. He regained his focus. There is a door in the floor. He crossed over to a large stone hatch, barely perceptible aside from the faint outline. I cannot open it. I nodded. I can. I knelt down and placed my palms against the door. It began to vibrate, and then slowly slid open, revealing a narrow spiral staircase. I stood up. I suppose you won't be joining me. The prisoner smirked. I wish I could. I reached out to shake his hand, he gripped mine and pulled me close. My father is correct about Idun. However, her apples do nothing for a man. He pulled me even closer, seemingly staring into my soul. But I can see now that you are more. I did not know what to say. I was just a man trying to get back to his wife. He released me, stepped over to his forge, and then grabbed something and brought it back over. He held out a magnificently crafted sword, one that was different from all the others. The prophets always said you'd return, but I'd begun to doubt them. He handed me the sword. I made this for you long ago. I took the sword from him, and in my hands, it felt right. I don't know who you think I am. But thank you, I said. Before that blade can be useful, you must find Idun's apples and eat one. Then you will become as you were? I stepped down onto the stairs. I could hear the chaos below. I tightened my grip on the sword. If he summons you, then his beasts and demons will not harm you. But once you eat the apple, they will try, said the prisoner. Then why bother eating it? You must eat the apple if we are to have a chance. I nodded, and reluctantly continued down the steps. They began to vibrate as the stone hatch started to slide shut above me. I quickly stopped and turned to the prisoner, who was still watching me. Wait, I said, what is your name? He peered down at me through the shrinking gap, and at the last moment, said, my name is Thor.